Hey hey all you zombies, this is Ant and this is Ant's Minecraft. Today I am on a creative world on the Cube Crowd fan server, specifically the flat world. Now the flat world is just a void world that is open to doing creative work. I'm here because it has world edit. Now I've been playing around with world edit, and this is the world edit one, the wooden axe. I've been playing around with it in looking at some of the more advanced features, things which are not really explained very well on the wiki or even in any YouTube videos. So I'm going to try and do my best to explain some of the more advanced features of the generate command. Now the generate command, or //g, can do a lot of things, but before we start, let's actually get an area. So we'll just mark this spot, take a second mark. So now we've got a 1 block by 1 block region. Let's actually outset that. This just makes it bigger. Outset 20. That should make it a 41 by 41 region. We can check that. So here we have a 41 by 41 by 41 cube. We can show that it is that. So let's see. Outline with stained glass. So that is our defined region, and that's what we're going to be working with initially. So let's just get rid of that. So we just undo that. Now a lot of people use the generate command for doing various mathematical objects. For example, a sphere is very straightforward. We go G command, we make it hollow, we use the stained glass, and then we go x to the power of 2 plus y to the power of 2 plus z to the power of 2, whoops, plus z to the power of 2 minus 1 is less than 0. So what happened there? What did I do wrong there? This is not right. Oh, I forgot that. Okay. That's not good. So let's just undo that. Here we go. A sphere. Very easy to make a mistake in world edit using the G command. The undo is your friend. Now, this is a very good sphere. It is fitting into that 41 by 41 area. So this is a 41 diameter sphere. It is an odd sphere, so we have, like here, odd number of blocks. Every range is an odd number of blocks, and it works very well. It's a very good sphere. You don't have any odd bits like something sticking out here like that there, or whatever. It's a good sphere. Now what if you don't want an odd sphere? Well, there is a way of doing that too. Instead of outsetting a region that's an odd number, we make it an even number. And a good way to do that is just by setting up a block like that and selecting that as your initial region. So there's that. Then we outset that. Now we can do our sphere again. And now we'll have a 42 sphere, or an even number. So if you look here, you see here there is units of even number. Here's 4, here's 6, so it's all even numbers. So if you're making a world where you want to make 2 by 2 doors which are all even sized, then that is a good way of making spheres that are even in size. But making a region like this is actually quite difficult. You often need to have corners out here, or trying to get the center point is not really good. Generally you're trying to build something with a very specific size. So let us undo that, and let's just increase the region size quite a bit more. So let's outset it by another 30. This will make it a 52 or 102 by 102 region. Let's double check that. Yes, 102 by 102 region. So this is a huge region. If we just generate the sphere using the original command we have here, which is for a unit sphere to fit into the selected region, then we're going to have quite a bit of problem. It's going to be huge. Now, if you're trying to just make a nice sphere, say that is a 30 sphere, well, you can actually do that without using you can just use a large region, basically. The -C command option of the G is a very useful one. It keeps the center point here as 0, 0, but it uses real world coordinates. So next one on the surface is 1, then 2, then 3. This means we can actually use set a sphere to be exactly a, say, 15 radius or 30 sphere. Now you have to square the radius. So this here's the radius. So anything that's less than 15 radius is going to be defined. So here is a 30 sphere. It's an exact 30 sphere. I myself don't like it that much because we've got this here. This is not a very good thing. So what I probably might do is I might just actually, let's see, we undo that. We just make it a little smaller. And this is something that you cannot do with the various plans and so on you get on the net. You can't really just adjust things a bit. So this is almost a 30 sphere. It's actually still 30 units, but it looks perhaps a little better. It actually looks a bit more spherical. Doesn't have that odd bit on the edge. It's still even numbered, but that might be a little better as a sphere. So that's a little tip. Don't be afraid to use this, and this is something you cannot do with other methods. For example, one of the methods that many people use to generate these things for survival is use the plots. Now this is the plots website, and it allows you to generate spheres and ellipsoids and so on. So if we click over to sphere here, there's a sphere. We get a little slider bar that allows us to adjust things. So here's a 30 sphere. Here you can see the plots are generating these 2 points here, but you cannot generate a point size. You can generate 28, or you can generate a 30, but you can't generate something that's a little bit smaller to get rid of these odd spots. Now, the other aspect of plots, and this is what I'm going to go into next, is the toruses. Now, the toruses is something I like. It's a nice thing, a nice object to build. You can have this floating around a central point, so we can actually have a tower or something in the middle and have this around it. But it's all axial aligned. That is, it's all aligned by the axis. It's got a flat top. It looks very fake and artificial. There are ways of improving it, and that's what we will be looking at now. So here we have the sphere. Back to the sphere. What happens is this, let's undo this and bring up that equation. Here's that equation. Now this here, the way the generate command works is we have generate, we have options, and we have a block. After that, everything here is formula. You can have spaces, you can have whatever, but you can actually have multiple commands. So you can do things like this. X is equal to x minus 5. Then put a semicolon. So what this does is offset all the x positions by minus 5, so that when it does the sphere, it's actually centered around a point that's actually positive 5. Because what happens is if we have a point here, we're trying to find out whether this is part of the sphere, he'll move it minus 5, and he'll find it's actually the center. So the positive 5, it will become the center. Let's just try that. See here? The sphere is now offset. It's off to one side. That can be very useful. You can use this to move things around a little bit if you can get a center point somewhere, huge region around it, and set a point that's a little bit to one side, but you can do more. Let's just undo that, and instead of minus, let's actually multiply the x by 2. And here we have an ellipsoid. This part here is still a 30 by 30 area, but here it's half the distance. So even with you can make the ellipsoids very easy. You can modify the coordinate system to supposedly warp the space in which you're creating the sphere. The generate command is still thinking it's making a sphere. It's just the x has been warped to be compressed. Now, what use is this? Well, let's go to a torus, shall we? So let's actually undo that. Undo that. There we go. And actually bring up a torus equation. Now this is slightly different to the normal torus equation you would see, because this one is using real world coordinates. Because of the minus c, we have to use real world coordinates. So this torus is 30 major axes. So it's going to be 30 out to the center of the ring, and then it's going to go 8 around that. So it's 30, then 8. So let's just go up a little bit and actually apply that. Oops, I lost command. Let's just put that back in. There we go. So here is a 30 block by 8 block torus. Now, like that plots model that we were just looking at, this is flat. It is just axially aligned. Not particularly good. We don't really want an axially aligned torus. So what we can do is we can use some special commands. Now this is actually very full Java. It likes a lot of the Java equations, and you can offset it like we did with the sphere, we can squeeze it like we did with the sphere, but we also can rotate it. Now there is an actual command that's provided, and you can look this up on the wiki in the equations section of the world edit. It's not seen very often though. So here we are going to rotate along the x and y axis by a unit of 1. Now the y is vertical and the x. So basically what this is doing is replacing the x and y points, the values of x and y, with a rotated value before it runs the torus. So essentially we are rotating the torus through the xy plane. So if we do that, which you can see here, we now get a torus intersecting the previous torus at about a 60-degree angle. The reason is this angle here is in radians, and radians is the mathematical way of setting an angle, and it's basically about a 60-degree angle. So let's just all undo this. Undo, undo. And let's just repeat that command. Here we go. Now, it's not axially aligned. Well, it still is. It's still symmetrical about this axis. You can see it here. It's still very symmetrical about this axis. But we can do more than that. So let's undo that. And let's add another rotate. This time, we want to rotate it about the vertical axis, or the XZ plane. So we put in that. Now it has to be put in before this. If you did it the opposite way around, what happens is it rotates the coordinate in from an angled position to a horizontal position, and then we would rotate it around that, and you wouldn't see any effect, because a torus that's rotated is still a torus. It's still the same torus. So you have to rotate the whole space vertically first, then we have to slant the torus and do the torus. So essentially this is sort of like in reverse order. We've got a torus, we rotate it up, and then we rotate it around the y-axis. So let's actually do that. And here we have a torus that has, oops, come on, don't fall on me. Here we go. Here we have a torus which is nothing, no alignment at all to the vertical, horizontal axis. It's very useful indeed. Now, that's a very slanted torus, but you can do more. Here's a set of tori which I prepared earlier. So first of all, we'll have this torus. It's still 30, but it's a little bit thinner. So it's 30 and 4, and it's just rotated pretty much like we had before. So it's just a thinner version of the one we had before. Then we can do another torus. This is slightly smaller with different radial angular slantings or rotations, and in red. So here we go. We have a white one, we have a red one, and now let's just add one that's in black. Here we go. Better get a screenshot of it. Here we go. So here we have a whole stack of nested toruses. I could have actually used the same radius and actually have them go through each other, but that works very well. Now you can imagine having something like this on top of a tower. You have a tower and you have this and make a very sci-fi-esque build. Let's just undo all these. Now, the original torus also allows you to set a data value for the block that you're making. So, for example, this is a torus that we've had again, and we're using a black data value for the stained clay. So that's just a black torus. But you don't have to specify the data value as part of the block. You can actually modify that. So instead of doing that, let's just undo that. Instead of doing that, what we can do is we can say data is equal to. Now, this is the block value. Everything after that is an expression. So this is actually part of the normal expression where you have an X, a Y, and a Z. You also have a data value, and you even have a type value. So this does exactly the same thing. It sets a stained glass, but then it modifies the stained glass to be black. This allows us to do some really fancy things. For example, we can also have it do something like this. We can say Y plus 7. Now this means the Y value, which is varying from about -4 here to, or minus 4 to +4, it will actually modify the color value, the data value, the color of the stained glass based on the Y value +7. So the +7 just moves it into the range. So this will be a value that's going somewhere between, say, about 4 to about 12. So let's actually do that. And here we have a multicolored torus. Each level is a different color. That in itself can be very useful in trying to work out a plan model, but we can do a little bit more. Say you don't want just a black torus. Say you actually want something that's just two-colored. So instead of Y plus 7, we can actually use something like what they call a triple expression. We go Y, if Y is less than 0, then use a data value of 15. But otherwise, use a data value of 8. That should be a question mark. So Y is less than 0, question mark. Use 15 or 8. So if it's less than 0, use 15. If it's greater than 0, use 8. So let us do that. And here we have a bi-Taurus, a bicoloured Taurus. At that point we can actually use that to replace, say, the lower area. So we can make that maybe a solid block, and we can have a glass roof. In fact, we can actually do that straight away. We can actually say, instead of that, we want to set a type. So the 95 in front is going to be ignored. It's not going to be used in this. It could be anything. So we go type. If y is less than 0, we want it to be 1. Otherwise, we want it to be 20. Let's undo that and actually repeat. Oh, of course. And repeat. Right, here we go. It takes a bit longer because we're now using a solid block, and that's causing lighting updates. So it takes a little bit longer to do. But here we have a glass roofed Taurus. That combined with, say, a little bit of rotation, and we can actually do some pretty nifty things. So, say, let's see, we just undo everything here. Oops, undo. If I can spell it right, undo, undo. Okay. Now this working in real coordinates can be really useful. We can actually do things. So, for example, say we have a tower. Here's our tower. We have a nice little tower. Works very nicely. Now, say we want to get a center point. First of all, let's actually change our selection scheme to be extend. Now, the extend selection scheme basically uses, oops, if we actually use a double slash in front of it, yes. Okay. Now, what we do is we can select the first point with the first mouse button, and then we can go around and we can select other points. So I can select that one, and that one. So now I've selected a point on each of the 4 sides. That means that that region, the center point of that region, is in the center of the tower. I don't know where that is. It doesn't really matter. If we have a look at the size, we can see here our tower is actually nicely is 49 by 49 in size. It is, and our selection is only 1 unit thick, but it's the center of the tower, and that will be the level for our Taurus that we're going to ring the tower with. So now let's just make this a little bigger. So out set 42. Doesn't matter how big you make it, as long as it's big enough to hold what you're going to be working on. At this point we can generate our Taurus to fit the tower. Now this tower here was 49 units, 49 blocks wide. The Taurus that I created, it's got a major axis of 37, so it's going 25 here, about 25 there, yeah, and 37 out to here, and then an 8 ring. So there's a Taurus wrapping around our tower. Straightforward. So let's just undo that Taurus and use a slightly different Taurus. Here we have another one. This time we're using a Y value. We're changing the data type of the stained glass so that's Y. That if Y is less than 3, we set it to black. Otherwise we set it to 0 or white. So we do this, and we have here a Taurus with a black base around the tower. Now it's still very flat, so this is still not a good aesthetic, so we can expand on it more. Here we add out some rotations, a very light rotation, not very strong at all, in the vertical, and then we rotate it around to make it not so aligned with an axis as well. Still exactly the same torus as before, but it's just been rotated. There we have a rotated torus around our tower. Except I've got the black and white mixed up. Ah well, you'll get the idea. We can actually finish off this thing. Actually, that's pretty good, because we can now just replace the stained glass with something a little bit better. So this just replaces anything that's white stained glass to a surprise block. Now this will take a bit of time because it's lighting updates. It's a solid block. Here we go. And we have a coal block. So here we have a torus. The level of it has also been slanted because when we set it, it was set to a orthogonally aligned torus. You have a ring that's slanted around a tower. And that is a really advanced use of world edit, something I have not seen before. So, and once you get something like this, of course, you can actually cut it out, make it a schematic, create your plans and build it in single player or survival world. But once you've got it, you can get the plan for it. So, just to finish up, I'm Ant. This is Ant's Minecraft. Have fun. Bye bye.